Very good afternoon to all of you. Let me introduce myself. I am Nandagopal, the President of Association of Indian Management Schools, and also currently I am the Director General of Sree Thyagaraja College in Coimbatore. And on behalf of Association of Indian Management Schools, I am very happy to welcome today's speaker, Dr. Asha Bhandarkar, the distinguished professor of Organizational Behavior in IMI, Delhi. I'm also happy to welcome all the participants of this Wednesday knowledge sharing sessions program. As you are aware, Association of Indian Management School was formed almost 35 years back. Then Director of Indian Institute of Management Bangalore was a joke took an initiative of bringing the business schools together, and association was formed. Today, the aims are working as a catalyst for all the business schools, and also it works as advocate plays an advocacy role in India, taking up the issues of the management school to the policy makers also. So this year we have taken an initiative of these two important activities through Zoom meeting. One is the knowledge sharing session, which you are all attending, and every Friday we also have the inspiring young leaders, basically to motivate the student community across the country. So at the end, we felt that we were able to connect our stakeholders, faculty members and students, especially Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities, because Tier 1, the metro cities always gets an advantage of getting the speakers and they get knowledge sharing through the eminent speakers. But Tier 2, Tier 3 cities are not able to attract the faculty and also the distinguished speakers from the industry. That is the reason why we thought that we will do this program to enhance the knowledge improvement and also faculty development. Apart from this, the aims encourages the research activities and also, of course, now faculty development program. And we at the aims also sponsors a lot of conferences, faculty development program, knowledge sharing sessions, and we also fund the projects. Apart from that, we also encourage young faculty members to do research. We provide a seed capital up to 1 lakh rupees every year. We identify 8 young scholars and we try to promote that. As you also aware, AIMS is also to have an ATMA, that is entrance test for the management graduates. So these are the major activities of AIMS, and I hope you will all extend your cooperation and support for the AIMS activities. Now let me introduce our distinguished speaker, Professor Asha Bhandarkar. Asha Bhandarkar is currently distinguished professor at the International Management Institute, New Delhi. She was a former dean and professor of organizational behavior at the MDA Gurgaon, and also she was an independent director at the Punjab National Bank. Basically, Asha is a psychologist and did a PhD in management related psychology and at Usmania University. And she is very keen in taking up research activities, and a lot of industry linked research activities she has taken up. She did a lot of consultancy work in the leading public sector and also private sector, corporate sectors and cooperative sector. She was very actively involved in consultancy, training and research activities for the last 30 years. And there is a lot of recognition was given based on this work. And she also got the senior Fulbright scholarship and went to US and worked for research of, in the area of leadership and other things. So she has published more than 9 books and published 50 research articles in well-reputed and recognized journals. And as I mentioned, she always has a passion to do research, and most of her research on transformation leadership and behavioral issues of leadership. I think he has spent a lot of time on the research activities on the leadership. And keeping this in mind, today she is going to talk about the transformation leadership. I think every one of us look at the transformation of the institutions. In India, we have seen even IIMs and also the leading business schools go through at different stages. So there are institutions that are transformed by the individuals. how MDI was transformed. I think that is what we are going to hear from Dr. Asha Bhandarkar today. I'm happy and also thankful to Dr. Asha Bhandarkar, one of my close friends for the past 4 decades. Happy that she's agreed to be part of this session on my personal invitation. Thank you, Asha, for accepting our invitation. We are looking forward to hear from you. I think most of you as a participant know the ground rule of this program, and you can ask any questions, and please put your questions in the chat box, and we will try to respond to your questions after the presentation. With this, once again, I welcome Dr. Asha Bhandarkar and distinguished participants of this program. And just for information to Dr. Asha Bhandarkar, we have almost 60 participants already joined Zoom, and some of them are in the YouTube also. And these participants are across the country. By looking at the name, you will see we have participants all over the country. With this introduction, once again, I thank and also welcome Dr. Asha Bhandarkar. Now I hand it over the session to Dr. Asha.
Dr. Nandagopal, good afternoon, and thank you very much for this kind invitation. I really feel honored that you have invited me. And I have to thank all our distinguished participants for having joined for this 1 hour session. And I hope that whatever sharing I do is going to be of relevance and of use to all of you. And yes, questions are always welcome. And I do hope that there will be more questions, because I think the process of a nice discussion happens through the right kind of questions. Dr. Nandagopal, I would request you to help me by keeping time. So in case I am running off time, you will be warning me, because I hope I don't, exceed the time. You have mentioned to me that I have a time of about 30 minutes to do an initial presentation, which I will be doing, and followed by any questions you may have and any questions of the participants. I hope that's okay. Now, let me start. And I am not one to, use too much of, these presentations and PPTs. But I think please permit me to use just one or two, just to, start. Yeah, so this is about the session. And that is obvious. Now, this is about the person, the personality we are talking about. Who was the person responsible to transform MDI? I'm Lucknow, I'm I. And Dr. Pritam Singh is a Padma Shree. He was honored for his work of transforming academic institutions in India. He passed away in 2020, and we, his students, me, the first student, and Subrat Kumar, the last student, doctoral student, captured the contributions and documented it, because it was so unusual and so fantastic. So this is a second one I wanted to share. And don't depend on what I have to say. Let's look at what some others have said about Dr. Pritam Singh and his contributions. If you look at what Kumar Mangalam Birla, the head of the giant conglomerate Birla Group, says, he epitomized leadership. Over the arc of his career, he was an educationist, author, institution builder, behavioral scientist, so on and so forth. I don't want to talk too much about the book. The point is what was said about Dr. Pritam Singh. He is the unparalleled avatar Purush, or master incarnate of management. Says Manas Mohanty, and he's the MD of Bharat Reserve Bank, Mudran Private Limited. And then we have Ranjan Kumar Mahapatra, who said he has been a towering institution builder. So it's not just about personality, it is about institution building. Because when we talk about organization transformation is to ensure that organizations have a longevity. So when we say transformation, we are talking about taking the organization's performance to its next orbit of growth and excellence. So this is the kind of theme that I would like to speak about. So now I'm going to remove this, stop screen share and get back to, yeah. So when we look at organizational growth and transformation, especially in the academic space, and of course, I'm talking about management schools, and then I would reference it to what was done at MDI. And it was a lived experience for me and many of us, my colleagues. Obviously, finance is the bottom line of an organization. Without that bottom line being strong, organizations don't survive. Or even if they survive, they limp, right? So financial, strengthening is a number one concept. Quality is a second concept. I'm briefly touching on all these to say that these are all the concepts these are all the points on which work had been done. Third is, of course, growth. Where will the finance come from? It is growth in activities, increase in number of programs, increase in number of management development programs, short-term programs. Thrust on research output, because as an academic institution, money you need to secure your bottom line, but money you need to, further enhance the quality of life and quality for the people and motivate and attract people. But your reputation depends upon factors like your faculty, depends upon factors like placement of your students, and so on and so forth. So therefore, accreditation and ranking become very important. So in brief, I am giving a bird's eye view of all the aspects on which a focus was laid when Dr. Pritam Singh took over as director at MTI Gurgaon in two terms. One was in the mid-90s, maybe 95, 97 or something like that. And then again in 2003 to 2006. So we had two terms at MTI. And I would like to talk a little bit about that. So far, whatever I've been speaking about is, a little mechanical and a little technical. So what is the transformation aspect of it? These are the outcomes. What are the attributes I spoke about just now are the outcomes. Now, how did you achieve those outcomes? And that is through the power of people. And it's no exaggeration, and it is no, storytelling, that it was through people that this transformation was achieved. As part of this, case study work on Dr. Pritam Singh, we spoke to about 50 people. People from various institutions where Dr. Singh had worked, but dominantly MDI, I'm Lucknow, and I'm mine. And tried to get a feedback. And this book that we wrote is on the basis of that input or data that we gathered. So Dr. Singh describes that when he joined in the mid-90s, MDI, so he says the campus was full of potholes, curtains were torn, no exaggeration, okay? And the number of faculty was just about 13. And staff was not promoted for 12 years or 14 years. So as soon as he joined, one of the first things he had to deal with was a strike from the officers. And it was a tiny place, although the size was 35 acres, 40 acres or something then. Now it is 35 because of road widening and all that. But MDI was a small place in terms it had one long-term program. And Dr. Singh's predecessor, Dr. Abad Ahmed, had just started the MBA program, that is the PhD program. So that was the situation. And you can imagine a complete turnaround or a transformation of this institution was done within the first 3 years of Dr. Singh taking over. Ranking, it came to number 5. and so many other parameters. I mean, I don't think we have enough time to go through all this. But except to say that on the path to excellence, many great things were done. I want to now share a few stories of lived experiences on the campus in round 1 and round 2, which will give you a hint about how people were inspired and people were mobilized. Because right in the beginning, I spoke about the whole bunch of factors which are the output of organizational excellence when the institution was transformed. But how was it achieved is the question. And to achieve that, it was through people power, which I would like to talk about now through a bunch of stories. Now, the first story comes from my friend MP Jaiswal, who is now heading IIM Sambalpur. He had joined in the mid-90s. And he gives his experience, and he said, as part of the book that I was writing, and he said that, look, I had finished my PhD, and I'd applied to a couple of IIMs, and I also applied to MDI. I said, why did you decide to join MDI? He said something very interesting. You know, Asha, what happened? As within a few days, I was given the information that I was selected. Who called me up? The director himself calls me up. And what does he say? Come and join us. And it was so exciting for me that the director of a school calls me up and invites me personally to join, as compared to all the other schools who took maybe 2 months to, respond back to me about my selection. By then, I had already made up my mind. I joined India. So this small episode tells me that Dr. Singh believed in establishing a personal connection with people, inviting them over to join on the faculty. So this is one story. The second story I want to share is, he used to try to inspire people by using stories from the mythology, Mahabharata, Ramayana. And, it is actually not Gurgaon, it is Gurugram, where MGI is located. And Gurugram, literally, the mythology goes, says that it is the land where Guru Dronacharya is supposed to have trained the Pandavas for the Mahabharata war. And he would give this story and inspire people, saying that the leaders of the country, of the management field, are being trained by us. Very inspiring. And when people asked, I think after a few such, times that the story was given or shared by him, then came the rejoinder. Somebody asked a question, but where were the Kauravas trained? And his immediate reply, very spontaneous, was, oh, they were trained in the IIMs. So all the Pandavas are from MDI and all the Kauravas are trained in the IIMs. Now, again, this is something which came to me from Jaiswal. He said that, look, that triggered so much of excitement among us and created so much of a positive sense of competition among us that we are going to become the top. Because Dr. Singh had a vision to be the best in India, to be among the top in the world. And as part of that, he would be sharing all this. I'm not talking to you about the simple steps because that's very boring. All of you know about it. Vision, mission, goal, this, that, and all. So this is the way it was conveyed. And this is the way the excitement was created. Third point, somebody told me that, look, in the day, Dr. Singh would go to, various companies to mobilize, business for MDPs, to have these meetings with various, accrediting, these AICT and other such bodies with the ministry, etc. But he was available till 10 p.m. in the evening. No file was ever delayed. Okay. This guy says that anytime I wanted, he was always available, always communicating, always ready to, reach out and help me whenever I had a problem. In those days, I think Gurgaon was a little isolated because mid-90s, it was just growing. In fact, before the expressway came up in 2005, it was pretty isolated. You didn't have so much of, these multinationals coming there and all that. And that time when, people were recruited, he would even go to the extent of helping them with getting their children admission into schools, which is pretty amazing. Admission into schools, guide and advise them about, where their families can work, so on and so forth. So you can see the personal touch. Okay. Third thing I would like to highlight, I had a colleague called Naga. Professor Naga was from LA, and he came for a year or 18 months to work at MDI sometime in 2005. And you know how it is when you've been an American for so long, you come back and you look at everything with skepticism, saying, Acha, so he is supposed to be a great leader. He's a Padma Shri, because Padma Shri was given in 2003. Padma Shri. So let's see what's great about him. Let me talk to the, lowermost guy in the organization and find out. So he went to speak to the cleaners, the class 4 or the 5 guys, the really bottom of the rung staff, or probably outsourced staff, because by then outsourcing had become big. And he says, my God, what they spoke was so amazing. And what was amazing about it? He says that, look, these guys said, as long as this man is sitting there, we have no worries. And he said, he started interviewing them. Why do you speak like that? He says, you don't know. He's a man with a great heart. He will take care of us. And that's what we know. So here comes another dimension. Caring, and not only for your officers, but caring for the bottommost guy. The fourth factor of leadership that was evident. After this, you have my friend Dr. Maitri, who is now director at IIM Nagpur. In fact, if you'll hear him, sometimes he will say that I am what I am because of Dr. Pritam Singh. He mentored me, he guided me. Okay, so here's the interesting point. He said once that, Dr. Singh had this habit of exciting and motivating his faculty in front of visiting dignitaries. So there was one such time when I think some leading professor from somewhere abroad had come, and he invited some people, and one of them was Professor Maitri. And he praised Professor Maitri in front of him. You know what he said? Professor Maitri has 100 publications in top journals. Now, Maitri is a simple, honest person. So next day he went to Dr. Pritam Singh and said, sir, I have only 45 publications, sir. And you are saying 100. That's not a correct figure. He says, why do you think I said that, Maitri? That is the goal I'm giving you. And I'm sure that you will rise up to the occasion and make it 100. So he says, now that triggered me to such an extent that my boss is expecting me to do this kind of work. And he achieved it over a period of time. But here, some of you who are in the field of organizational behavior will recognize glimpses of what is called Pygmalion approach. The Pygmalion approach to management, where you set high expectations of your team members and they rise up to the occasion and do it. So this was a great example from E3. Second is when he was appointed as a dean. Actually, he was relatively new to MDI, but he was a very hardworking, very capable and very honest and all that. So there was a time when he was needed and he was made the dean of graduate programs. And others who are there for a longer time, obviously, you know what happens. There is a dynamic of some element of dissatisfaction among the older people, saying that we've been here for so long. Here's a new man who has come in and he's being given the position so fast. Why is it? On what basis? Etc. etc. So Dr. Pritam Singh had his ear on the ground. He would know what was happening, especially if something new is introduced. He would try to understand, who is not liking it, who's not liking it, etc. Because he was very clear about one thing. What never changes? Resistance to change. So he is mentally prepared that there's going to be resistance. I know I have to understand it and I have to handle it. And he also knows that he has to motivate his people. Because the dean is a very important position, So he went to Maitri's room one day and said, okay, what's happening, Maitri? And then he says, sir, this is happening. I think so and so people are not comfortable. This is Maitri. I have made you dean because you can do the job. Don't bother about anybody else. I will take care of it. So the kind of backing and support which a leader should be giving his team members, he gave that. That's another story. Okay, and I don't know how much time there is for stories, but I still have a couple. I spoke to his former driver, and because so many things are observed by drivers. Only difference is we don't talk to them to find out. So as part of the book, I thought, let me try to understand. And I asked him, one of them, over the years, one of the more recent people I talked to. I said, what do you think about him? He said, I don't know. As soon as he would get to the car, he's always on the phone talking to somebody or the other. Okay. Then some days he would call up somebody. I think, madam, he was some important person in AICT, the chairman of AICT or something like that. He didn't know how to articulate, but he said. And he said, sir, phone karte the. That is, sir would call. And he would say, good afternoon, so-and-so. I'm going to drop in at your office for 10 minutes for a cup of coffee. And that is how he would go and connect with all the different big shots around Delhi. What is the purpose? Why networking? These are all your important stakeholders. It's not only your students. It is not only your faculty. It is people in your neighborhood, in your ecosystem. It is the regulator. It is the ministry. All these people. And after he passed away, in fact, in a couple of prayer meetings, many of these people came and everybody had one thing to say. And that one thing was, Dr. Singh would always call us, always talk to us, whether we kept in touch with him or not, but he would keep in touch with us. Essential aspect of networking, essential aspect of stakeholder management, which I think is a big, big effort, but a big, big lesson in how to manage our entire ecosystem. Because as a transformational leader, you need the buy-in of all your stakeholders, including your board, right? And they become your strength. Yeah. And what else did I want to say? So these are some of the stories from which I'm trying to convey his style. Now I want to say that, what about the work culture? A lot of effort was put to build a culture which was merit-focused, because there was a clear thing. We had this system of units. If you exceed X number of units, then you have a handsome reward. So there is performance reward kind of connection was very strongly established. Number one. Number two, Dr. Singh believed in diversity. So which means that he wanted to recruit people from different parts of the country, and he wanted to recruit people of different genders. Okay. And his fundamental belief system was that when there is diversity in the institution, it builds balance. If nature has diversity, why not diversity within the organization? Because organization is also a community and it should have diversity. So that was the thinking behind the diversity piece. So diverse culture, performance, merit-focused culture, empowerment culture. Now, once you have proven yourself, you have scope to try out, to take risks, and there would be your backing. You would have the backing. If you fail, it's okay, but don't repeat your mistakes, right? So culture of performance, freedom to innovate, empowerment, and lastly, culture of achievement and celebration. All achievement was celebrated. Okay. So if you see the culture, it was a very liberating culture, especially when new people joined the organization. A lot of effort was made to make them comfortable. In fact, we would say, 2-3 months honeymoon period is happening. Dr. Singh is, going and visiting them in the offices, taking care of their basic needs. And we used to ask, why are you doing all this? And his response used to be, yeah, once they are comfortable on their personal front, now then I can demand from them on the work front, on the performance front. They are mentally free and they can devote their time to the organization. That's how MGI was grown from nothing, some small, local institution to a great institution. So this is something about Dr. Nandagopal. Do I have 5 more minutes?
Yeah, please. You have 5 more minutes. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So, when we talk about organizational transformation, you wonder, did the outcomes happen? Because in the beginning of the session, we talked about organizational transformation as transformation towards the next orbit, as transformation for excellence, as transformation for continuous growth. Okay? And yes, in 2004-5, I think it got ranked I think it was ranked number 1 once, and it was ranked consistently among the top 3 during his tenure. And once you have gotten into that orbit, I mean, even today, 16 years down the line, its ranking is unshakable. I'm not saying it is 1, 2, 3, but it is in the top 4 or 5, always. And whether it is accreditation, whether it is ranking, whether it is MDPs, whether it is financial security and quality, placements, you name it, on all parameters, there has been a quantum growth from the time that small tattered curtains, potholed roads, agitating staff type of a situation of mid-90s. Now, always as a psychologist, I would always try to understand, okay, but what is, the belief system or value system of this person? Because I think beliefs and values drive your behavior. And whatever I described about Dr. Preetham Singh just now through stories, you will see more details about it in the book, which I have published along with my, student, Dr. Subrat Kumar. Right now, I just have time for a few points that I want to share regarding beliefs and values of Dr. Preetham Singh. One is, and this was the era of 90s, right? When we're talking about ideology and stuff like that. So he would say things like, I don't believe it, because he spent time in Yugoslavia on some fellowship or some ILO thing. He spent time in the US on a Fulbright. So he could compare capitalism and communism. So when he came back to India, he would say, when I met him, he would say, I don't believe in capitalism. I don't believe in communism. I believe in humanism. So the human being was number 1 for him. That is number 1 point. Second, I don't know if my friends here are familiar with this North Indian type of a statement called which I will translate into English, Shiva's procession. Now, if you know about the Lord Shiva, his procession was supposed to have all kinds of people. There was a place for everybody: disabled, normal, abnormal, animals, all kinds of people were there in that marriage procession of Shiva. So he would use that as an analogy to say, there are all types of people, man. It's all right. We have to tolerate, we have to accommodate, we have to accept all types of people. In terms where what he meant was not performance, personality. So there was an immense tolerance for all types of people. Then another beautiful analogy which he would use, and which was his thought process, was the analogy of Shiva as Ardhanarishwara. The concept of being a complete human being when you have activated fully both your masculine side and your feminine side. Obviously, I'm talking about your personality qualities. When you say masculine side, it is a drive for aggression and speed. And we're talking of feminine side, you're talking about spirituality, intuition, etc. The feminine side. So he believed in both these qualities. He did not go to either extreme as a human being. And that way, most interestingly, he became more acceptable to everyone. Yes, Dr. Maitri is truly an excellent example. Of course, he is. Another story which Naga used to give, Naga had given my friend Naga. He said, I once went into his office and found that the staff, initial phase, the union leader was being very nasty with the doctor. And it was a woman. So after that lady left, Naga says, I asked him, why did you tolerate all that? He says, see, my position, my job is to listen. Listen to both the bouquets and the brickbats. So it's all right. Will you not take any action against her? Well, I'll give her one more chance. Let me see what she does next. So that is the level of tolerance. How much of tolerance should one have before we take a strong stand? How ruthless should we be? These are all issues of personal value systems. This is what Dr. Singh did. Right or wrong is a different matter. But this is what defined him. And so I would not like to talk anymore, I think. We went on, I think, if you look at global accreditations, it was the first, MDI was the first in India to get the AMBA. And in fact, he brought AMBA to India, Association of MBAs from Europe. And what more can I say? He has been a true icon as a great leader in the academic space. And that's it. One last slide, if you permit. How do I? Yeah, one moment. One last slide. Yeah. So I think here is what I was trying to say is the need for change, because it is a survival of the fittest, which is one more logic why we should be transforming continuously to keep up with the environment. Lastly, I want to say that if you're looking for Indian case studies on transformational leadership, please look at our previous book, In Search of Change Maestros. Okay. And Noel Tichy, of course, is a great guy on this subject. And lastly, if you want to know more about Dr. Pritam Singh and his work, please look out for this book, Dr. Pritam Singh, Alchemist Guru. That's it. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Asha, for explaining the transformation leadership, especially academic institution. We could hear a lot of stories how industry captains have transformed the industries, but we also have few management gurus who really transformed institution. One such person is Professor Pritam Singh. I got an opportunity to be closely associated with him for some time, thanks to Asha. We know each other personally. So I lost touch with him more than 20 years. Suddenly there was a call came from Professor Xavier, who was the director of IIM Ranchi. When he was at Coimbatore, he called me, he said that someone wants to meet you, and can you come and meet him at the residency hotel? I said, yes, who is that person? He said, Professor Pritam Singh. So when Xavier invited him, he said that I will come to Coimbatore. There is one condition that I should meet my friend Nandagopal. So that is a kind of a relationship he maintains. So I was surprised after I met him more than 10 years, and I told him that you should come to PSG. Then immediately before going to the airport, Sunday morning, he came to the campus and he accommodated all his friends' requests. I think that is one of the great thing of Professor Pritam Singh. He is a people man. I think people who worked with him, who knows that how kind he is towards the people. As Asha said, it's a humanism. I think humanism, we could see him, a great leader we had. And now I have one question. I think Asha mentioned about the characters of a transformation leader. He talked about empowerment, quality, diversity of culture and network, culture of celebration. I think many of us really don't celebrate the success of us and also success of others. Especially in academic, I don't see anybody celebrating our colleagues' success. I think Pritam Singh always celebrated not only his colleagues' success, even his friends' success also. The question to Professor Asha is, we have seen Professor Pritam Singh, the first tenure at MDA, and then he went to IIM Lucknow. I think you all know IIM Lucknow, how bad it was and how it was transferred. I think maybe Asha has taken an example of MDA because he was at the MDA, but I feel personally that his contribution to IIM Lucknow is much bigger than the MDA. So he did a lot of work at MDA. Then again he came back to MDA. So what was in his mind when he completely transformed the organization, when he leaves, how he feels that?
Okay, so that's the question. How does he feel to leave and move forward?
Yeah.
Okay.
Assignment.
Right. So I'm Lucknow, obviously, I mean, he retired and he moved. So there was a closure because he had turned 62, I think, then, and he had to move. Now, when he was selected and sent to IIM Lucknow, he was very, very reluctant because he felt that in the mid-90s, when he was working to build the institution of MDI, he felt that, 2 years, 3 years is too short. And he was very, very reluctant to go. But he had to go because of the ministry. So that was the thing there. But his connection and emotion for the institutions was too high. And let me tell you, I mean, in retrospect, I think each of them is his baby, if I can put it that way, because the day before he passed away, it was very interesting. Subsequently, I came to know about this, that he asked the driver to take the car out. And where do you think he went? He went to MDI. He took the car and he drove around MDI, within MDI, stopped the car somewhere, looked at the buildings, and then went back home. So that is the level of emotional connect with his creations. It was a very personal thing for him. It was not a job. It was a passion. It was a commitment. Yeah.
So, Asha, the next question is, see, any transformation leader does the work and transform the institution. But most important is how you institutionalize the transformation. I think after he leaves the organization, that is a problem which most of the organization today we have. The success is the transformation leader succeeds in transforming. Unless you institutionalize things, no, the success cannot have a consistency in performance.
Right. So if you look at McKinsey's model of 7S, what it says is transformation has to happen on multiple fronts. Strategy, structure, system, style, share values, blah, blah, blah. Okay, we all know that model. So Dr. Pritam Singh didn't focus only on one aspect. He focused on all the relevant aspects. Getting the right people, building the right culture, having the right level of empowerment, connecting with the stakeholders. And who are the stakeholders? Deep connect with the industry. Bring in order to connect for building the image and branding of the institution. So I think because of that multi-level, multi-dimensional focus, that the institution could move to the next orbit. So even subsequently, it continued to stay in the next orbit. And that is a genuine hint of transformation of the piece. Not on a single dimension, but on multiple dimensions, to put it in short.
There is a question from Professor Anil Kumar from SEMS. Dr. Pritam Singh is also widely accepted as a principle-centered leader who has a stalwart in practicing value-based leadership. Ma'am, your comments on this, please. That is one question. Added to that, Professor Pawan Patel asked a question: what value system Professor Pritam Singh choose his successor?
Okay.
Related questions.
Okay. So, fully agree on the principle-centered leadership part. In fact, he was very, now and then when there had to be difficult decisions had to be made on the human front, he would have some dilemma. but he always struggled to maintain and take decisions in line with his value system. And to give you one example, this is indirect. Because I have had the privilege of working with him for so many decades, I know him really, really closely as a professional colleague and as a boss and as a mentor. So he would say that whenever he was in a dilemma, he would watch the film Gandhi. So he says, I have watched that film numerous times. And every time it has given me hope and direction. So that is, if you talk about his role models, one is Gandhi and the other one is Vivekananda. In fact, in his offices, whichever office he was, these you would find Vivekananda's photograph, definitely. And that slogan, arise, awake, stop not till the goal is achieved, was in his heart. And of course, Krishna as a strategist, he admired very deeply and sought to live up to some of those ideals. And the second part of the question was regarding selecting the successor. I don't think it was in his hands to select a successor. It was a board decision.
Okay. No, I think what was maybe, I don't know, maybe MDI, hope he has identified successor when he left, or he would have suggested the name. Maybe.
They have done that, but see, you have to appreciate that in a private system, because MDI, is a public institution, neither public, actually, neither private nor government, somewhere in between. That was the character of the place. So it had a strong board. And boards decide, right? And Kissing, for example, who was from the ministry, he was on the board. R.V. Shahi, for example, Secretary Power, he was on the board. So very, very high-powered people. So it's not so simple that, okay, I have been a great leader and I have transformed this place. Now I can do this or that. No, not easy.
Thank you, Asha. I think it looks like there is no more questions. Thank you very much, Asha, spending your valuable time. I think a lot of insights we were able to get about Professor Pritam Singh, even though we knew him and we also saw him distantly, but we didn't have opportunity to work with him. But it's a great learning experience from you that how Professor Pritam Singh transformed the institution like MDI and also IIM Lucknow. And of course, wherever he was there, even I knew in ASCII also he built his own, he left his mark, including XLRI. Still, I could meet a few of his old students at XLRI and also ASCII. They all talk about him as a great teacher.
Right.
And so that is where we also able to get some kind of experience about Professor Pritam Singh. Thank you very much. And I think it will be a great learning for many of us as a teachers and also directors of the business schools, how institution can be transformed, looking into the factors which you have mentioned, like empowerment, quality, empathy, diversity in culture, and networking, and culture of celebrations. I think these are the things we understand. And thank you very much for giving this session. And thank you very much. And also I thank all the participants for spending a valuable time joining with us. Thank you. Let us look forward to see you in the next Wednesday. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nandagopal. Take care. Thank you, everyone, for your attention.